Welcome back to Void News. Sorry for the delay in the upload schedule. I'm going to be changing a few things around, and setting that up took some time on my end. These updates are now going to be once a month rather than once a week, because the once a week wasn't working out. In addition, I'm going to try and limit it to one discussion on global politics per episode. This is less because I don't want to talk about global politics, and more because I will just rant if I let myself. I'm going to try and upload a video every day in March except for on the weekends. Wednesday videos won't be related to the Long War 2 completes, with the first and last of this month being respectively the February Void Talk, or Void News, and the March Void News at the end of the month. In addition, the Void Newses will now contain, at the end of the segment, a little bit about what I've been doing in the previous month. What the shows I've been seeing, how I rate them, stuff like that. The other 3 Wednesdays of this month have not yet been completely determined, but what I'm planning to do is take a look at other series that I might want to do. I'm thinking the best way to do this is just to do a quick shot of 3 different games, play them for an hour or two, probably unedited, but we'll see how that goes. And then we'll see if we can keep this schedule going in April to determine whether or not videos continue going out 5 a week, or whether or not I have to cut it back a little. I'll probably have to reduce the video uploads in May, but that's quite a whiles away at this point. Before I jump into the political talks, I just want to talk about a few more changes going on in the channel. I'm planning to discontinue the Resident Evil 7 series, so I will be rechanging the title on the first episode for that series to indicate as such. Furthermore, when I have some time on my hands, I plan to go back and give each of the XCOM videos their own custom thumbnail. With that out of the way, let's get into global politics. Several things could be looked at as the most important political event to happen in the last month, many of which deserve some coverage. But for today's video, what I'm going to discuss is North Korea's test launching of a missile. For those of you who are unaware, Kim Jong-un oversaw a North Korean test firing of a missile that landed in the East Sea. The UN then responded with an urgent security meeting because this violates the UN policies in regards to what North Korea is allowed to have for nuclear weaponry, which I don't disagree with, because the last thing we need right now is a nuclear war to start breaking out. I'm usually all for letting any given nation test its military capabilities within its own borders, and even a little bit out into the ocean and seas. But that requires that it has a leader I trust. There's about 5-6 countries at the moment with leaders that they're on shaky grounds with me, and North Korea is one of the big ones. So I'm quite happy to see that the UN has stepped up. They're gonna have something. We don't know what. Although China, as of last I checked, hasn't commented on it, and that worries me slightly. Switching over into scientific news, there have been some rather interesting breakthroughs recently in chemistry. Scientists have recently begun working with the concept of metallic hydrogen, which I find fascinating. Not so much in that the actual metal itself or the material so far from their studies is anything interesting to work with, but just the concept of continuing to work forward with elements we already thought we understood and seeing what else is out there. Because that's one of the greatest things about being human. Just seeing, hey, there's a thing, what can I do with it? And then just letting your mind wander. I don't know what practical purposes it'll have. Lightweight metal, maybe, but that would be in very rare circumstances, maybe on Saturn. Not much use here. But the idea that we're just looking, hey, here's a thing, it should do this. How do we make it go there? I love humanity for that. Stories like this fill me with hope because they make me see that humanity still is out there, still looking at things with those wide, hopeful eyes, going, hey, that thing, what do we do with it? And it's beautiful. I love stories like this. Their sample was unfortunately destroyed in lab tests, so we're not going to be able to currently look into it more until they get another sample going, which apparently, from what little I've managed to read into this in my spare time, was something of a fluke in the first place. So we're not quite working stably with this element yet, in that solid state. But we're getting there. And we're still moving forward as a species. And that's what I love. In more personal news, I finally got around to watching Miraculous Ladybug. For those of you who don't know what this show is, it's a show about two teenage superheroes in Paris fighting off against one of the most ridiculous villains ever, let's be completely honest. His name is the Butterfly, Hawkmoth in English, which I actually kind of like more. It sounds a little more intimidating. It sounds like he got his powers and went, no, I'm not being the Butterfly. Even though that's still his primary way of infecting other people. And I'm loving this show. Now, part of that is the voice acting. I will admit, you put Bryce Papenbrook in something, and suddenly it's a lot more interesting to me. For those of you who don't know who this is, some of his more current roles, besides being Adrian, i.e. Cat Noir, in Miraculous Ladybug, he's Eren Yeager in Attack on Titans, he's Kirito in SAO, he's Shiro in Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, he's Charlie Blood in Blood Lad. If you want to go more into video games, he's also in Tales of Grace, Zev, Fire Emblem Awakening. I'm just reading off his IMDb page at the moment. I don't actually know some of these, but I'm going to go back and look at them again. Because him being in it just makes me go, okay, that's something worth looking at. He has that kind of personality, but also tone of voice. I just love it. So, give one of his series a shot, and if you like his voice, I recommend just going through and seeing what else he's in. I recommend that for most actors and actresses, actually. Just go search what else they're in, if you like them. Usually, if they're in a leading role, they'll have some control over their character. I know that sounds weird, as a lot of writers will be like, oh, the character's mine. Yeah, but they bring a voice to the character, and they bring a tone to the character. That's something the voice actor is just going to do. That's part of who they are. That's part of why you picked them in the first place. You were the studio, whoever decided that. Back on Miraculous Ladybug, though. It's fantastic. It has that old, campy, cartoony feel from my childhood. The story is standard superhero drama and teenage life backstories, etc., etc. Adrian is the rich, but, distant person who's pushed into everything by his father. There's tragic parent loss. There's friends who can't figure out their identities, despite them being the only two people who look like these superheroes in the city. But it's marvelous. I can't wait for season 2 to finally get out, either in English or in French. I might be willing to watch the French just to see it that much sooner. It comes out like a month or two sooner, I think. But it's so worth it. And I recommend a lot of people take themselves way too seriously, go, oh, I'm not going to watch this childish show for a lot of things. And no, take a moment out of your day and just find something silly. Find just anything. It doesn't have to be this. It has to just be something. Look at it and it goes, that looks kind of childish. I'm going to try it anyways. Best way to feel young at heart. That's about it for this week. If you've liked the series, or like the X-Men series, and you want more of it, just say so in the comments. If you feel I've missed something that you'd like to hear my opinion on, just leave it in the comments below and I'll get to it at the next video, which will be in a month. And yeah, have fun out there. And remember, the best way to stay young at heart, just live your life in a way that makes you feel happy.